Mark here for another great Wisdom and Knowledge 5 podcast. And my next guest comes to you from England. You remember him from the hit band Redbox, hits like Lean on Me, Ah-Li-Ayo, and For America, which is very relevant today. Simon Toulson-Clarke, welcome. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast as a guest.
You're very welcome, Mark. I'm glad to be here.
And let's start out. I want to discuss obviously what's going on in the world right now, but let's start out by talking about how you got interested in music and your early journey into music.
I had an older sister by 5 years. So as I was born in the late 50s, by the mid 60s, she was the perfect age for Beatlemania and loving the Stones and knowing
Hmm.
about Dylan. And she was really into music. She brought Jimi Hendrix home for tea in probably 68, 67, 68, whenever he first came to the UK. I was just a guy with a guitar case to me. I was, uh, quite young, but the music she loved filled the house. Um, my grandfather, I should also add, was a classical music conductor. Um, so we had all kinds of music that we absorbed as children. And I was lucky enough to be influenced. But so that decade between, let's say, the mid 60s to the mid 70s, when there was just an explosion of self written uh, musical statement. Um, that was of an extraordinary standard, uh, and there was a lot of it. So I had that for my formative years. Um, and I just suppose, really, we lived in a very remote part of northern England. Um, it was kind of high ground. We call it moorland.
Hmm.
I don't know what you would call it, but there are no trees. It's quite wild country. And we were by the sea, but also backed by steep hills and quite remote. So my nearest friends lived several miles away, and I entertained myself and my younger brother uh, with music. We had a record player, and we'd lie on the ground, separate the speakers, and put them like headphones by our heads as we lay on the ground listening to early Beatles records, the Stones, Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez. Um, and I suppose early on, by the time I was about, sorry, that's the dog trying to build a little den for itself. You can
Oh,
probably
yes, there we
hear
go. Nice.
not interference, it's just the dog. By the time I was about 12, I wanted to play the guitar and reproduce some of the songs that I was listening to. And I learned a few um, Paul Simon songs and also songs by a singer I really loved at that time called Buffy Sainte Marie.
Hmm.
Um, and I found that her songs, particularly, are very melodic, very rich lyrically. I could reproduce without having to try and change the key for my own voice, because my voice, as it started to break in my early teens, was exactly an octave below hers. So it was easy for me to play those songs. So I learned Beatles songs and, you know, songs by those composers I've mentioned, Cat Stevens, Cat
Oh,
Stevens.
yes. Hmm.
Um, I suddenly found when I learnt four or five songs off Teaser and the Firecat and Tea for the
Hmm.
that girls who were really out of my league were suddenly fascinated by me. And as somebody who was quite shy, I think probably still have that kind of slight reserve.
Hmm.
it was a cloak I could wear, being able to play and sing. And so, sort of around that age, 12 or 13, I started to write my own songs, which were highly derivative of what I was listening to at the time.
Very nice. Now, one group that, I really got into when the MTV era came around because they became popular again. And it's because, they came off of a TV show is the Monkees and Davy Jones is British. What do you think of something like the Monkees? And, they have they had these radio hits, but some people say, oh, they don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. They're not a real musical group. What do you think about them?
Um, well, let me tell you what I think about people who say that. I
Yeah,
think they're idiots. They've
exactly.
got no ears. I don't really care where music comes from. I don't care who puts the ball through the goalposts, so long
Hmm.
as it goes through the goalposts. And those songs were written for a reason, for sure. That was, to fill airtime, but they were great pop songs, and
Hmm.
they were brilliant performances and great vocals. I think I'm a believer. Last Train to Clarksville. I think those are real timeless classic pop songs up there with
Sure.
the
Hmm.
very best.
Yeah.
I think we've made a much less competent job of manufacturing groups
Hmm.
over the last 25 years than people did during that period. Um, some of the best of Motown was quite kind of, put together on paper
Hmm.
rather than evolving under its own steam. I'm reminded of the fact that Smokey Robinson saw Diana Ross on the staircase of his building and kind of went, "Hey, you look cool. Can you sing?" Of
Hmm.
course, she could sing. Man, of course she could sing.
Yeah.
But without those songs being written by somebody with a very specific brief, um, we would have lost an amazing catalogue of songs that came from that era
Hmm.
and from that city.
Yeah,
And
for sure. Hmm.
I'm a big believer in moments in time that create this an incredible sort of timelessness in the music where
Hmm.
in the moment there was absolutely no significance to it whatsoever. um, and McCartney's on record as explaining how he would have stupid silly lyrics to songs that became absolute world classics. um, so I think just I think the music can come from anywhere and at any time, and
Hmm.
it's not really about how it's born; it's about how it lives.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
So I would say the Monkeys are right up there.
And even the Beatles were big fans of them.
Well, not I mean the Beatles recognised a tune when they heard it.
Hmm. Exactly. Good point.
Clearly there's a you can hear the Beatles' influence in a lot of music from around that time, from on both sides of the Atlantic.
Hmm.
Um, I'm reminded of when my daughter was very young, like a lot of small girls of her generation. She was first music she loved after the kind of nursery rhyme stuff was ABBA.
Hmm. Oh,
And
yes.
I kind of I was built to hate ABBA because of my age.
Hmm.
Um, when ABBA hit, it was in the wake of me loving people like you know Zeppelin, Joe Walsh, Neil Young, of course the Beatles, who are probably my favourite band of all time. If I had to listen to one artist for the rest of my life, it
Hmm.
would certainly be the Beatles, because it's like 7 albums. Each one is radically different from the others, and each one is like made by the best band in the world. So that was something quite remarkable. But my daughter, when she was into ABBA, I thought, well, now would be a good time to play her a few of the songs I think are classics
Mm-hmm.
uh, from my childhood. And I, of course, inevitably, some of those were the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing some Beatles to her in the car. She would have been about 5 years old. And she goes, Daddy, I think that the Beatles listened very closely to ABBA, which is which is actually good ears
Mm-hmm.
because you can hear that strain of melodic songwriting that carried through
Mm-hmm.
from Liverpool in the early 60s all the way to Sweden 2 or 3 decades later. And is embraced in their songs, which I having listened, in the car to a lot of ABBA
Mm-hmm.
when Katie was young. I gained a newfound respect for what they did, which is really great records, great
Mm-hmm.
songs. Um, so our keyboard player actually sometimes plays in Mamma Mia the musical in London. Um, and he comes back with stories about how when he first started doing the gig, he was terrified because it's actually quite complex music, especially for the piano. There are a lot of time shifts, meter changes, tempo changes, key changes. It's quite demanding. And then I met him about, we went on tour together a few months after he joined. I said, how is it now? You're still sweating it? And he said, not really. I'm kind of on autopilot. I can play it now and answer a text with my other hand. And
Mm-hmm.
then, and that kind of inferred a degree of boredom with it, which is inevitable. But then about a year later, he said a really strange thing happened to me, which was that I fell back in love with their songs and just started to hear it once I relaxed about the playing and how demanding that was. I could actually just marvel at the energy in the show and in the songs, which is kind of cool. But I think that's the hallmark of something that has a lasting quality. And I think there was an enormous amount of music made in I'm going to say the 50s, 60s, 70s, and some in the 80s. I'm not a massive fan of the sound of the 80s.
Mm. Okay.
Um, but I think that was about technology and the equipment changing and recording methods changing as much as anything. Uh, and I salute the fact that in the 80s, more people who perhaps hadn't spent years honing their playing skills were able to make records. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think, the more people that can make a record and make a statement, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of, I kind of like that. But at the same time, I missed that virtuosity of the craft and the way people played together in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of peaked in 71. Have you ever read that book? It's called 1971. It's about
No,
music.
is it a good read? I'll have to check it
It's,
out.
it's a cracking book.
Okay.
And right in the beginning, right off the bat, though, the author is quite a funny guy. I can't remember his name. But he says, he mentions this point. He says, every generation thinks that the music of their youth is the greatest music ever made. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely natural. But the only difference is my generation are fucking right.
Good one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he is right.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
That 13 or 15 years, I don't know what it was, from say 63 to 75 has probably 99% of the music that I worship
Ah, mm-hmm. Yeah.
was, was made in that period.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you can cherry pick certain artists who went on to world stardom, but who were never as good as they were in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I would cite Elton John, who Elton John made an album in '73 called Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which is the double album. There's not a duff track on it. Every single song is awesome.
Hmm.
And then much later, and I love Elton to bits, and I wish if I met Elton, I would kneel at his feet and kiss his shoes.
Hmm.
But I think he peaked in those years, and I don't think anything he did in the subsequent 25, 30 years even came close.
Hmm.
And I'd say the same thing about Rod Stewart.
Ah, yes. No, I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of others say the same thing as you. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say the same thing about McCartney. I mean, McCartney gets a life pass.
Hmm.
He can do anything because of what he did. But
Sure.
even Paul McCartney has struggled to reproduce what he did in that extraordinary time.
Hmm. For sure. Did you like any of his Wing stuff or no?
I like a couple of tracks,
Hmm.
but I mean, when you consider that I give people playlists sometimes because I'm so opinionated about this,
Hmm.
young people that I come into contact go, "Would you give me a playlist? From give me like your top 5 artists of all time playlists." And I do this, and I think there are certain bands will live long in my heart
Hmm.
just because I love 4 songs. But
Oh, yes.
I
Hmm.
love the 4 songs with such a passion and devotion and reverence
Hmm.
that it's enough. However, there are certain artists where this playlist is long. And
Hmm.
Bowie, when I give people a Bowie playlist, it's got 30 or 40 songs on it. When I
Sure.
when
Hmm.
I give somebody a Supertramp playlist, it's got 10 or 12 songs on it. I think ABBA could rightly claim to have 10 or 15 great songs,
Hmm.
which is something because most people may write one great song.
Sure.
So to keep repeating it. However, the Beatles, my playlist is 80 songs.
Wow. Oh.
It's almost
Hmm.
like they never wrote a bad one.
Sure. Hmm.
Just my opinion.
No, it's a good one. And for
Neil Young,
you,
Neil Young is a 15-song guy.
okay. Hmm.
So he's right up there. That 15 is awesome.
Yeah.
I've probably got 10 by Elton.
Hmm. But it's
And
fun. It's funny your era of music because growing up, with my parents, I was big 80s, right? But in the car, they were listening to, Simon and Garfunkel. My
yeah,
dad liked Johnny Cash, the
oh,
Kingston Trio, Neil
those are
Diamond, the
those are probably
classics.
20-song playlists for all those artists.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, they're right up there in the Premier League for me.
And funny story is, and this song was not even a major hit. It just, it was like a 1 week, 2 week hit. Living in a Box by Living in a Box comes on the radio. And my
Yeah,
dad's like, what is this fast jive music? Living in a Box? What is this?
yeah, yeah. No, it's a big hit, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Every now and then, there's something just comes up like that. Like, do you remember? Soul to Soul had that song "Back to Life,"
Yes. Hmm.
and I'm not, I know a guy who plays with those guys, and deep respect for him, but
Hmm.
I'm not really aware of much else of their material. So it just shows you the power of one song
Hmm.
can sometimes just elevate people. I think what it does as well, which is interesting, where I can remember an artist with a few good songs. I kind of got into Sly and the Family Stone like this because I could remember the hits,
Hmm.
but that made me want to go back and listen to the rest. And of course, the rest is pretty awesome.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's just a nice. It's kind of the worm on the hook to get you to listen to the rest of the stuff that hit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
certainly how people who like my band came to us was, invariably they heard a hit, one of the hits first, and then decided to dig a little deeper.
Hmm.
Thank goodness.
For sure, yeah. And have you ever had a song like I had a song that just stuck in my head for years upon years, and I didn't know who sang it, and it was I don't know if you remember the song, "The Way to Your Heart" by Soul Sister. They're a Belgium pop duo. It
No, I
was
don't know.
from like 1988. Well, the way that I actually found the song. I mean, I think they played in like supermarkets and stuff, and it was obviously on the radio. I think it peaked at like 41 in the U.S. But the way that I found it was, I was just one day at a discount department store, and they had an 80s compilation, and it said "The Way to Your Heart," and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's that song. And sure
Yeah,
enough, it was.
yeah, great. And was it
Yeah.
as good as you remembered it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Cool. That's cool.
yeah. Now, what do you think of somebody like Phil Collins? Were you ever a fan? Because I was a big Genesis Phil Collins fan.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really got into Genesis. They were a bit more progressive than I
Mm-hmm.
than I I tended, to listen to. But I obviously love him as a drummer, um, and I think he's a great singer. Um, and I think he did, one of the best covers of a Motown song. And You Can't Hurry Love. I think that's a great version.
Mm-hmm.
And well, didn't he do Groovy Kind of Love as well?
He did, yeah. And he
Yeah.
said he's not performing anymore. I don't think, at
No,
least. I don't think he will be. But he
he's
said he'll never wants to sing that song again for some reason.
well, no, but it's a great song.
It is. Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah. I got a lot of respect for Phil Collins, but I never really bought his records.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. It's kind of like a love, you either love him or you're not
I
that
was
big of a fan.
I was more into Gabriel after he left
Mm-hmm.
Genesis. I was a Peter Gabriel fan for Gabriel 2, 3, and 4. I liked a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who
Um,
wasn't? I mean, he very talented, things like Games Without Frontiers. I mean, what a classic.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What about Michael Rutherford? Did you ever like him or no? Didn't really get into him.
I didn't really get into them either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, it's Mike and the Mechanics, wasn't it?
Yep, Mike and the Mechanics, and Paul Carrack was in there too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know they're great. I just didn't. It didn't really. I don't know. There's something a bit academic about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
There's something not quite connecting with me in it.
Yeah,
But it's weird. You told that story about the song that you discovered in the bargain bin, and
exactly.
the song that was in my head for years, and I just didn't know where it came from or what
Mm-hmm.
it was actually out of the musical Hair, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
a song called "Ain't Got No I Got Life,"
Okay.
and I heard it as a very young kid and always really liked it, and I think we used to get those compilation LPs which had cover versions like sound alikes of all the hits of the day.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it was like on a company called Telstar, and it was really cheap, and they were recorded pretty cheap, but they were okay versions of the hit songs sold cheaper than the real thing. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the great advantage was that you had all the hits from 6 months on one record,
Sure.
which because we couldn't compile in those
Mm-hmm.
days of vinyl. You know, a record was a record. You couldn't compile a cassette or make a CD of your own. It was
No. Mm-hmm.
prior to that technology. But I heard this and I assumed for many, many years the version that I liked was by Nina Simone, and I
Okay,
discovered
yeah, I need some.
I discovered that much later. You know the song I mean, do you?
I'm pretty sure that I do. I'm pretty sure I've heard it before. Yeah.
Yeah, ain't got no money, ain't got no home, ain't got no picture, ain't got
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
It's yeah, it's just a really great song. and it was, I didn't know it was from Hair. Just was a record but by her. But because she's got quite a deep voice, and I'd never seen a picture of her, I didn't
Hmm.
even know the name of the artist. For the better part of 10 years, I thought it was sung by a man.
Ah, okay.
So,
Makes sense.
so when I actually saw a TV clip, was,
Hmm.
I went, oh, I love this song when I heard the intro. And then the camera pans and it's a black woman singing. I was like, what the fuck?
Hmm.
That was just such a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's, it kind of, I love the fact that you just don't know who's going to come up with something. And there are no stereotypes. You can end up stereotyping in music,
Hmm.
but Jesus, never judge an artist by the album cover. There's that
No, not at all.
saying,
Hmm.
don't judge a book by its cover. But
Yeah.
as was evidenced by Elvis getting onto black radio, because
Hmm.
no one had seen a picture of Elvis. They just assumed the way he sang he was a black person.
Oh,
So
exactly. Hmm. Yeah.
I think there's reverse examples of that. Um, Another record I really loved, I had no idea what the person looked like or who it was Chubby Checker.
Oh, yes. What a
Let's,
legend. Hmm.
Let's Twist Again.
Hmm.
And, just passed away, Jimmy Cliff.
Oh, yes, he did. Hmm.
The harder they come, the harder they fall. That was
Yeah.
a big song in our house. But I
Hmm.
had absolutely no concept of what it was. My wife is at the door asking for the dog. There's the dog.
Oh, nice. Very
This
nice.
is Poppy.
Hmm.
Poppy, go with Mum. Go on.
Beautiful.
Go
Hmm.
on. Go on. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mark.
So, what were some of your favorite concerts that you did throughout your years? Do you have any memorable moments?
Oh, God, yeah, because I was at a boarding school in
Hmm.
London. I'm from the north of England, but I was sent to a boarding school in London, a long way from home. Um, but I discovered a way to get out of the boarding house
Hmm.
down a fire escape, which was in the guy's room who was next door to me. And I befriended him with the sole need for getting down the fire escape. And I saw some amazing concert. The first concert I saw was T Rex.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's Get It On. Well, it's called Bang a Gong. In
Exactly. Yeah, I know it well. Hmm.
uh, and I remember at that concert, I loved it so much. I went the next night. So the
Mm.
first two concerts I ever attended, were T Rex on consecutive nights at the Edmonton Sundown in northern London,
Hmm.
and you could almost not hear the band because of the screaming.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was
Hmm.
like a teen idol, but I think he was a seriously underrated songwriter and guitarist. Actually,
Hmm.
he's a kind of riffmeister, and it's
Yeah.
sort of recognised now. But at the time, he was at the forefront of that glam movement that Bowie became a part of.
Hmm.
And then, so the next concert I saw was David Bowie
Oh,
at
very
House
nice.
Custodian, and then I saw Led Zeppelin twice.
Hmm.
I saw the Stones, I saw Dylan, and this was all sneaking out of the fire escape at school, getting
Hmm.
getting the underground, the tube into central London. You could buy a ticket on the door, which
Hmm.
is just unheard of now. I didn't apply for advance tickets. I just went and queued for a ticket,
Hmm.
and I got in. I got in to see Bowie at Hammersmith Odeon. And another gig I saw was, funnily enough, was I think it was Mott the Hoople
Oh,
supported,
okay.
and the support band was Queen.
Wow. Okay.
So
Hmm.
this shows you kind of the era.
Yeah.
Uh, and I loved that song, All the Young Dudes by Mott the
Hmm.
Hoople, which is actually David Bowie wrote that song. So there's a kind of connection there.
Yeah, I think for me, I've seen a lot of UK 80s artists. The last one that I saw was Howard Jones and with Mid-Jury. And
Yeah,
this was back when I lived in Phoenix a few years ago, and Nick Beggs was performing with Howard Jones. I thought it was incredible.
yeah,
And I mean, Howard still sound, they all still sound the same. They're
yeah,
great. I was a big Ultravox fan, so it was quite the treat to see that. But I think as far as like really big concerts, I did see one where it was Bad Company and Paul Rogers was still there. Bad Company, Styx, and Billy Squire.
right, that's a good bill.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was only like 20, like 20, $30 for the
Like,
ticket for the
basically,
whole thing. You can't beat that. So,
$3,000 now.
yeah, oh, it is. It really is. Brian Adams is coming to North Carolina, and I remember seeing him for like 30 bucks, and it's like 800 plus.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, not everyone has that. What about like the festivals? Are those pretty expensive? Like Let's Rock and the ones.
Yeah, very expensive. Well, I mean, I've
Wow.
appeared at
Okay.
I've played a few of the Let's Rock shows,
Mm-hmm.
and Howard does occasionally, and Midge, they're there too. Howard's still a great keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
I guess those chops never leave you.
Yeah.
Um, but those, I always think it's kind of easier for those guys because their sound is all in the. I mean, of course, they're great. They're great at it, but
Mm-hmm.
their sounds are sort of programmed into the machine. So the moment they hit that preset, that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing about 80s music. And I think it's why we were a little bit perhaps out of step with our contemporaries,
Mm-hmm.
is that we were playing everything. Everything was either acoustic guitars or electric guitars. Uh,
Sure.
I mean, I'm not saying we were the only ones doing it, but it was a dying art by the mid '80s to
Mm-hmm.
actually, to not have everything programmed
Sure. Mm-hmm.
into drum machines and MIDI and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I think that changed the sound of the decade.
Yeah. Did you think your sound was, a bit different than other artists over there? Because it definitely had a
Well,
different
I don't.
tone to it.
It's not something I think. It's very obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you play a record, we did have, whether you like it or not, we had a sound.
Mm-hmm.
I think the '80s was the beginning of. I have my theories why. I think it's about record executives and how the business was beginning to work. But I think throughout the late '70s, when I was, you know, perhaps getting better as a songwriter and beginning to
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, as I approached 20 years old, beginning to think, maybe I would like to try and do this as a
Mm-hmm.
career. Um, Throughout that period, the pressure was on you. In fact, you stood absolutely no chance unless you had a recognizable character and sound
Mm-hmm.
that made you stand out from the rest.
Yeah.
And I think by the mid '80s, that had changed 180 degrees. So
Mm-hmm.
that record executives at Warner Brothers would take me aside and go, the problem with Red Box is you don't sound like everything else in the '80s. I would go, well, that's a problem? Surely that's a good thing. And they
Yeah,
would,
it should be. Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't. It was considered a marketing weakness that we didn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think they were wrong
Oh
because
yeah. Mm-hmm.
because Red Box fans, that's what they liked about us, was that we had our own thing, we had
Sure. Mm-hmm.
our own approach to making records, and that affected how they sounded.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about something like your Motive album? I mean, that one song that sticks out to me is it's very relevant in today's time is "The Power Is Down."
Yeah, yeah, you're not the first person to say that.
Oh, I'm sure. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think that the problems we see culturally and socially right now
Hmm.
are not new, but they are peaking now.
Yeah.
But I think the seeds were sown in the 80s
Hmm.
for this kind of extraordinary materialism, uh, and this, back in a previous time and when I was a young person, if a politician or somebody who worked for the people, the state,
Hmm.
were found to be lying, it was a career. It ended a career.
Hmm.
But now lying seems to be acceptable. It's
Yeah,
as if,
it's the norm, that's for sure. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
I think we kind of joke about it, but it's really sad.
Hmm.
So the fact I wrote that song, "The Power Is Down," and for America, I wrote even a few years before that,
Hmm.
and they were, they're not, I don't, I wouldn't say they're out and out protest songs, but they are songs that attempt to have a point,
Hmm.
um, and are essentially kind of verbalizing the inner worries and concerns that I had of where it was heading. So I felt that we had lost our power even
Hmm.
back then in the late 80s, early 90s.
Sure.
But we'd have Reaganism and Thatcherism in both our countries
Oh, sure. Hmm.
for,
Yeah.
for, a, for a decade. And I think that was the beginning of a new kind of approach to business, a new kind of approach to economic growth.
Hmm.
I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it was an interview with a banker.
Hmm.
He was explaining why the Green Movement and specifically people who cycle, weirdly,
Hmm.
presented an economic challenge. And he said, because those people, they don't buy a car.
Hmm.
They don't take out a loan to buy a car. They don't buy fuel. They don't, um, they don't go places long distances, which cost a lot of money,
Hmm.
and it's bad for the economy. And I was thinking, but what is the main one of the main problems we have is that the way we view economics
Hmm.
is is damaging our environment.
Yeah.
So how about face is that argument
Hmm.
that somebody with green concerns, environmental concerns, is bad for humanity because it's not good for bankers? It's
Hmm.
like fuck off. You know,
Exactly. Hmm.
that is the problem. We
Yeah.
need to start to realize that we don't own the planet, we don't own the earth. We're just here for a short time, and we need to
No.
pass in a better state than we found it.
Hmm.
So I think that this is a very small period in history, but from the mid 80s to present day,
Hmm.
I think this problem has been growing.
Oh, for
That,
sure. Hmm.
that not only individuals, but governments and society
Yeah.
de- demands economic growth. We need in the Western world, in our free
Hmm.
market economy, we need to always have this economic growth. And I don't pretend to be any kind of economist,
Hmm.
but it strikes me that you cannot have eternal growth. That doesn't occur in anything in
Hmm. Yeah.
in nature. In nature, there's nothing that keeps growing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're in the hands of people who should not be steering us.
Yeah.
Uh, and so
Exactly.
my main concern with those songs, "The Power Is Down,"
Hmm.
I've forgotten the lyrics to my own song now, but I think it says, "What we have is a permanent dark. The motor won't spark when the
Yep.
power is."
Exactly. See, you remember them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that still stands.
Hmm.
I hope that my daughter's generation, she's 22.
Hmm.
I hope that they are very concerned, but they're also very worried. They're almost too nervous as a generation
Hmm. Do you
to.
think, well, I noticed here, even with like the No Kings movement and all that, that it is and even with the wars that are going on, and people standing for peace, standing, for things like Palestine, I think it's the youth that is making a difference. But
Yeah,
I don't know if are you aware of like the World Economic Forum and what they want to plan and Agenda 2030 and all that, or?
yeah.
Not that aware because it's like there's a
No,
lot of people that don't either they just don't care or they don't want to stand up for things like
I,
that. What is your
I,
take on the digital ID? Because that's already rolled out in the UK.
well, I think it's dangerous. I, I think,
Exactly.
I think there are certain things that we can entrust to AI. It's like surely AI can give us breakthroughs in curing diseases, but I don't see why it should replace what humans are good at.
Hmm.
So I think this is just, again, you seeing AI explode for economic reasons because there are profits in it for people.
Yeah.
Not what we need to do.
Hmm.
It's what some people want us to do,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it was always so. It
Hmm.
was always so that we have a sort of elite driving the agenda in a
Hmm.
direction that is not good for most people.
Sure. Hmm.
That's what I think about the digital thing.
But is there really people? Because they say that there's almost like 1 million people that turn up in London to protest the digital ID. Is that true?
Yeah,
Okay, that's good. And I've heard in Italy too. I can't confirm this, but in Italy they're, like trying to refuse to pay taxes, and they're really going hard too.
I wasn't aware of that, but I'll
Yeah,
check.
that's the thing. You don't know that's the other thing about like social media. You don't know what's true and what's false, and that can be AI generated.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But I think Trump is surely waiting until he can say that the Epstein files are AI generated.
Good one. Hmm.
Well, it must have occurred to him
Yeah. Hmm.
because if I think he's already said that some of those photographs are fake. But
Oh, I'm sure. He said just about everything, so.
I think when you have such a mountain of evidence, you can't
Hmm.
you can't dismiss it. We have a guy here who
Hmm.
is like a kind of Trump wannabe. He's called Nigel Farage.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, it's bad news. It's really.
Hmm.
But I think what I detect is that people are just tuning out, and that's what allows bad people to take control of our governments and our society. Is when
Hmm.
people have just had enough. They've had enough of hearing about it. It's everybody's so sick here of us being badly governed.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, rather than saying, well, I'm going to go out on the streets and demonstrate, they're just tuning out and going, I just don't want to know.
Oh, sure. The same thing here. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And sorry, I'm just I think, is it the dog wants to get back in?
Sure.
So, God, I don't want to come across as somebody who's just moaning about how things are as I get older. I have a lot of faith in younger
Hmm.
people and their positivity.
But what about people like Roger Waters? He gets a lot of heat, but he's just against what is going on?
Well, yeah, he takes a lot of heat because I'm not really sure. There's the argument within Pink Floyd. That's one area of controversy for people I know.
Hmm.
I think the thing is with Roger, he can be a bit inconsistent.
Ah, okay. Hmm.
So you never really know what he thinks, what he really
Mm-hmm.
thinks. But he's, he's. I assume you're referring to his defense, his remarks about Israel and Palestine, and
Yeah. Oh,
I
hands
think,
down, that's what I'm talking about. Just his support, against the genocide and such. Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, what sane human would not criticize genocide?
Mm-hmm.
Has
Yeah.
it really come to this? But I
Yeah.
think Israel, I'm, my grandfather was Jewish on my mother's side,
Mm-hmm.
and she had some pretty hair-raising stories to tell us when we were children of anti-Semitism that she experienced in the 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
even post-war, post World War II. So I'm deeply sensitive about that, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, somewhere along the line, we have become confused and allowed Israel to muddy the waters by saying any criticism of Israeli foreign policy is anti-Semitism, and
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
it is not. It is not.
No. Mm-hmm.
So I think that line needs to be drawn more clearly. And so Roger Waters has been vocal on that point, and I would agree with him on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just got to stop.
Yeah.
Ultimately, every war ends with people sitting down and talking.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just bypass the bloody bit and get to the sitting down and talking?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the way I think, But unfortunately, I saw an economist explaining that the USA subsidizes the state of Israel $10 million a day.
Oh, I believe it. Mm-hmm.
And there are 10 million people approximately in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about $1 per person per day, $365 per person
Yep.
in Israel per year from the USA. You, Israel are at the same time buying weapons off Lockheed, which is an American corporation,
Yep.
with that money. So American taxpayers are effectively giving their money to Lockheed
Mm-hmm.
to arm Israel against Palestine.
Exactly.
And actually, that is the loop
Mm-hmm.
which I've already referred to. This is about economists
Mm-hmm.
defending what they consider to be a buoyant idea for
Yeah.
economy. We know that war makes a lot of money for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think until we start to see the wider costs and the longevity of those costs, whether they be emotional or actually practical and in terms of infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
the problem is that the people who have shares in Lockheed, they're not going to be rebuilding Palestine. They're not
No.
footing. They're
Mm-hmm.
not footing the bill for that. So it's really complicated argument. Um, I can't. Again, Roger Waters will never be off my Christmas list just because of what he did with Pink Floyd. I think Dark Side of the Moon is one of the most amazing records ever made.
Sure.
Uh, and the fact that it's all played
Mm-hmm.
with no computers and it's just human is quite remarkable because there isn't. It's almost like there isn't one false step on the entire record
Mm-hmm.
for 45 minutes. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So and he was a massive part of that. But I also love Gilmore and I love Richard Wright. I love all of them. And those two albums, Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here, I wore them out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I literally wore them out. I bought 3 copies of Dark Side of the Moon. It was on my
Sure.
turntable for 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
So they're deeply ingrained in me, and I find it hard to watch when they fall out and when you know, I think most of the criticism against Roger Waters appears to be, you know, it's easy for him to tell us what we should all do. He's a multimillionaire living
Hmm.
in a lovely mansion somewhere. But I don't think making a few mil is the problem. And this actually, you've touched on, you know, what I think of the modern world. I think one of the things I've seen happen throughout my lifetime is the gap between the people who have the most money and the rest of us has grown ever wider. And
Oh, for sure.
I
Hmm.
remember thinking in my early 20s, oh, you know, at least by the time I'm in my 60s or 70s, things should be a little more equal. Surely we will go, we'll become closer together. But
Hmm.
it's gone completely the other way. And I think that's a very structured and tactical political movement to,
Hmm.
to make it so. And that's what we need to fight. There's enough money. I wouldn't go, I'm not interested in taking money off people who've got a few million
Hmm.
because that's not actually that much.
No.
But
Hmm.
when people have got billions, that is the kind of money that could change lives
Hmm.
on a world scale. And I
Sure.
just imagine having billions,
Hmm.
looking at the world and thinking, I don't need to do anything. I just can't imagine
Yeah.
how how any human can do that.
Hmm. I don't know. You know, there's just so many, a lot of these billionaires are just like, to me, they're just inhumane people, you know, trying to rule over. I mean, that's why they have things like Agenda 2030. I mean, look who's in charge of the World Economic Forum, Larry Fink now,
Hmm.
you know?
These are not people we should be putting our futures.
No, not at all.
They're,
They don't want us in the future,
no,
sadly.
well, they do, but only as kind of cattle on the farm
Yeah,
and give.
exactly. Slaves. I mean, look at what Kissinger said way back in the day. Henry Kissinger, herd the cattle, you know?
Yeah,
Really. It's
yeah,
sad, you know?
yeah. It is, but
Hmm.
it's in our hands. It's in our hands.
Yeah, it is. And we outnumber them. That's the thing. And I mean, we're not calling upon violence. We're calling it from a peaceful humanitarian type move, you know?
Yeah, no one knows when that will catch fire, but it will.
Hmm. Yeah.
It will. And I think, you know, if I were a billionaire,
Hmm.
I would be very tense
Yeah.
because, you know, we know historically that when the gap between rich and poor, you know, we see it in this country. There is extraordinary wealth at a certain level in this country,
Hmm.
incredible homes, incredible fleets of massive vehicles, and, you know, opulence. And yet we have to raise money on a telethon on TV to
Oh
feed,
yeah. Hmm.
to give lunch to children who can't afford it at school.
Sure.
This is obscene.
Hmm.
This is obscene. No one can call us a civilized nation.
No, yeah. Hmm.
So, historically, when things get to a certain point and
Hmm.
they're close, there is always bloody revolution.
Yeah.
So, if
Hmm.
I was a billionaire, I would be very interested. In fact, we have a movement here called Millionaires for Tax Increases.
Hmm.
They've gone around the country in a bus, in a tour bus, like a campaign bus, and it's
Yeah.
a bunch of millionaires who want to be taxed more because they are concerned about the gap between. So
Hmm.
these people are super rich.
Yeah, you really don't see that here.
No, but it should get more publicity than it did. But
Hmm.
they just recently drove their bus around the country and ended up in Westminster at the heart of the seat of our government,
It's
uh,
incredible. Yeah. Hmm.
delivering a petition to raise taxes
Hmm.
for the super rich.
Yeah.
But I'm told that if they levied 2%
Hmm.
on the upper echelons, people who have, say, more than 100 billion,
Yeah.
it would raise enough money to
Hmm.
transform our National Health Service, to transform our public education.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's a no-brainer to me.
hmm
And what the argument always in this country is, oh, we can't tax them because they'll
hmm
leave the country. They'll
Yeah.
leave. I'll let them. I
hmm
don't, I don't. I don't want them here. If that's how they are, if they're not willing to help,
hmm
fuck off.
There you go.
And we'll tax you a leave it. We'll levy
hmm
a leaving tax because
Yeah.
you've made your wealth in this country, so you owe it something.
hmm Yeah.
The great trick in taxation is to not demotivate people. If you tax people too hard,
hmm
stop them wanting to earn more money and being energetic in making things happen in their business. So
Yeah.
it has to be thought about, and
hmm
it has to be aimed at the right level. But what I'm talking about is I'm talking about the elite super rich.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
how does Musk go from having 500 billion, which is a figure that is beyond understanding,
hmm
to doubling that?
Exactly.
I
Yep.
mean, what would 500 billion do for the poor
hmm
in America? I mean, I know it's not going to solve the problem, but it's gonna get the ball rolling.
No, yeah.
That's a significant amount of money. That is more money than most countries are worth.
hmm
So anyway, I've said enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, with all the money that they're spending on wars, they could,
Yeah, yeah.
solve the homelessness crisis, feed,
Those
every
missiles.
person. It's insane. And then you got over here, you got things like ICE running rampant on innocent people.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful to watch.
Yeah, it really is. I think
It's
the one thing that you can do, uh, like here, it's on the other side of my state in Charlotte. Like, I have no interest in visiting Charlotte after what they're doing over there. Raiding, laundromats, going after innocent landscapers. It's sickening, and yeah, they don't show their faces. Because they want to intimidate people by, you know, dressing that way. It's insane. I never thought I'd see this in America.
Well, no, I mean, you still have servicemen, ex-servicemen who living
hmm
who fought against fascism in Europe between 1939 and 45. In
Yeah.
that war, Americans gave their lives to
hmm
defeat fascism,
Yeah.
and that ICE are fascists. They are
Exactly. Yep. hmm
behaving in a fascist way.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same as what happened in Germany in the 30s. It's like we never fucking learn.
Yeah. hmm So, well, we'll see what happens in the future, but I'm with you. I think, you know, people have to start waking up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
it's overdue.
so obvious. I don't know how like here, I don't know how anyone could support this guy, you know?
I know.
Or the whole administration. It's not only him, it's the whole administration. And then you have all these followers. And how could somebody who's of faith, support this guy?
But I don't think his supporters are paying attention.
No, no, not at
I don't
all.
I don't think they're following what happens
No.
and what
hmm
he's doing in their name.
No.
And they're so attached to the dogma, and they're
hmm
so sick of being criticized by
Yeah.
liberals and Democrats
hmm
that I think it almost hardens their view.
Sure.
The more he behaves undemocratically, the more they cheer him on.
Oh, hands down.
So that's the heart of the problem. You
Yeah.
know, he has behaved undemocratically. I mean, it's laughable. People here are laughing at the fact
hmm
he's threatening to sue our state broadcasting,
Oh, that's right.
the
Yeah.
BBC, because they made something up about him.
hmm
they didn't make anything up about him. What they did was they edited his words
Hmm.
to make him say something that he didn't.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that for 6 months, in denying, in claiming that the election was fixed, he was saying that, and he was inciting violence that day on the Capitol.
Sure. Hmm.
Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it, and it's maddening to people who support the BBC, like I do, because they didn't need to make shit up.
Hmm.
It's like a massive own goal.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, I mean, Trump is like a god's gift to news people because
Sure. Hmm.
he fucks something up every day.
Oh yeah.
The guy
Every
is
hour, pretty much. Jesus.
he's an idiot.
Hmm.
So you don't need to make shit up about him.
Yeah.
Just use what he gives you.
Hmm.
But anyway, his he's clearly not a master of irony.
No.
Um,
Hmm.
in threatening to sue a news agency that does not that invents a fact, because
Hmm.
his news agency of choice, Fox, is like utter fiction,
Yeah. Hmm.
pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of kind of the pot calling the kettle black.
Well, I like, you posted that video of him at the Commanders game, the NFL game, and I happened to be watching, sadly, the whole clip, because I was watching the game. Uh, and he says to the announcers, and you can't blame these announcers because they're just doing their job. And
Yeah.
he goes, when he's in the booth with them, he goes, "Oh, I love how you know that I could never tell a lie."
Wow.
Yeah, seriously. He turns to them and says that. And then they had him announce like one of the plays. It was horrible. But the whole time these are national announcers, like you get in the Premier League and stuff. And he was referring to the announcers like Washington was their team. He came off as
Wow.
such an idiot even there. He's like, you got a great team here. We're going to get a great stadium for you guys. And it's like these are they're fair and balanced like Fox News, you know?
Yeah. 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 Well,
Oh.
I think the whole that little bit of the clip where he goes, "I insert name."
Yeah. Oh, that. Yes. And he was
I,
getting booed left and right when he.
yeah, I
Hmm.
mean that just shows everything about him. Not only did he not understand what it meant,
Hmm.
he didn't prepare.
Yeah.
There's so much hubris about the guy.
No.
He didn't think I'd actually better read through this and understand it before I
Hmm.
do this on national TV. He thinks he's immune to criticism.
And I
And
know, when they showed him when he was in his own press box, who was right next to him was his pal Mike Johnson.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, that's the Speaker of the House.
Oh, okay.
Speaker Mike Johnson.
Oh, Mike Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen him before. If you saw the face, you'd recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. So,
I just extraordinary. And no one seems to be sort of saying, how come all the women around him look the same?
oh yeah, good point.
Because that's pretty creepy.
Hmm.
And I saw him with a picture today on Facebook, a picture of him surrounded by young girls from the
Hmm.
Epstein files. And
Oh yeah. Hmm.
the young girls are all, around the age of 10 or 12.
Yeah.
They're all blonde, white teeth, blue eyed. They look like clones of each other.
Hmm. Sure.
So the photograph is doubly creepy.
Yeah.
Um, but this just doesn't seem to have any impact on his presidency. This is
No.
if this was in Britain, no prime minister could stay in power
Hmm.
with this happening. They
Yeah,
just
here it's
they
like
just
he's, yeah, absolute power.
so it's hard to watch.
Yeah. But there is a lot of, I mean, there's videos out that even show the reason why he can't release his taxes is because it proved the Epstein files and what his involvement in things, and that he's paid out lawsuit settlements, to some of these, and I believe it. I totally believe it because people from his old businesses, like the one of his casinos in or hotels in Atlantic City, you name it, all over the board. There's so much proof out there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But I think, well, I mean, that's another big question, isn't it?
Hmm.
Is couldn't the right wing in America,
Hmm.
could they not find someone better to stand for what they believe in?
Hmm.
Which makes me think that he actually does have some power or some ability to get himself into that position. I mean, he's done it twice.
Yeah. Hmm.
No one would have thought that he could have had the disastrous presidency that he did the first time round and then won
Hmm.
another election.
Sure.
It made me question the validity of that election,
Hmm. Yeah.
which I don't want to do. But is Obama can't stand again, can he?
No, I don't think so.
Because
Yeah.
it would be a third term,
It would
wouldn't
have
it?
to be, his partner Michelle.
Yeah,
But they
but
didn't want that this time around, so I don't think they would in the future, so.
they need somebody to stand who's got some credibility and can take
Hmm.
him on. Can take him on. And that's not Harris.
Hmm.
I love Bernie Sanders, but unfortunately, that would be. Um, I think Bernie's. I think he's great, and he's clearly extremely competent and smart. But I think he's probably just a bit too old to run for it now.
Hmm.
So I don't know who there is. Newsom is he a credible possibility as a
Yeah,
president?
it's really hard to tell. It looks like that's what it's going to be for 24 is against each other. But then he also comes out with statements like, "Vote, my dear Christians, you'll never have to vote again." What does that even mean? Is there not going to be any more elections?
Is he saying vote because
He
otherwise
said, "Vote, my dear Christians, you'll never have to vote again if you vote for me this one time."
I wonder what that means.
I know.
But I
And he
can't believe.
said that, and I,
Is he a
I don't
Christian? Is he particularly Christian?
know, in no way at all. I mean, people swear that he is, but no, he's not at all.
No, no.
Hmm.
That's not an issue here. We
Yeah.
don't have we don't have that. You many more Americans in terms of proportion of your population percentage. Let's see it in
Hmm.
those terms because it's so much bigger country than ours. But the percentage of people who have faith in your country is much greater than here.
Hmm.
My mum and dad used to say that two world wars within two generations
Hmm.
in Europe just killed the idea of God here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because what kind of God would preside over that?
Yeah, I know. Hmm.
But I do know that it's important that uh, any presidential candidate in the USA be shown to have faith or be at least respectful of faith.
Hmm.
It just never comes up in Britain.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not ever even asked.
Yeah.
Are you a Christian? Do you believe in God?
Hmm.
What are your spiritual beliefs? Never ever.
Yeah. Hmm. So,
I don't know. We've got our own problems here. They're not dissimilar.
yeah.
The guy who looks like he's ahead in the polls here is essentially a Trumpist.
Hmm.
He's for repatriation of immigrants. Um, he's a known racist. He was a racist at school.
Yeah.
Uh, people are coming out of the woodwork to say that he shouldn't govern,
Mm-hmm.
that, that he's not a fit person. But you know that inflames as much hatred as it does support.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm.
People find he's racist, that then it suddenly goes up in the polls because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Scary.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that I just can't. I don't think you can be a music fan and be a racist.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just impossible.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that goes for both sides. For for any race,
Mm-hmm.
they like music from wherever it comes, just based on the value of the music.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can't see borders and you can't see color.
Yeah, exactly.
And there were certain composers, classical composers here that enjoyed a certain notoriety simply because we had a Nazi movement in Germany in the 30s, and I think Hitler was fond of Mahler, the composer.
Okay.
It damaged Mahler's popularity in this
Mm-hmm.
country
Yeah.
just by association. But of course, it wasn't Mahler that was killing people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But what do you think over here though? Because you look at the country artist and people like I'm not a big country fan by any means, but if you look at people like Kenny Rogers and Johnny Cash, they would have never stood for this.
no,
But compared to like people like Jason Aldean, try that in a small town, or like a Kid Rock type, you know?
yeah, no, it's pretty unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think country music's great tradition was about the downtrodden.
Mm-hmm.
So to end up as racist would be kind of ironic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then I'm staggered at the irony around us.
Yeah. And I'm not by any means saying that all country music is
No,
racist or anything. I'm just
no.
certain, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some people revel in it, don't they?
They
It's
do. Mm-hmm.
kind of being offensive.
Yeah.
I think it's this new. I've had this argument about woke with a lot of my friends. My friends
Mm-hmm.
tend to be like me, kind of slightly,
Yeah.
not not deeply political, but I am, in general terms, sort of liberal with a small L.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I hate inequality. I hate
Mm-hmm.
unfairness. Um, so I think that we what we would really need now is a kind of unifying movement where people stop slagging each other off on opposite sides, because the debate just seems to become quite hysterical.
Yep.
Um, we just need, in this country, certainly left and right is doesn't really mean what it once did.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but whatever you want to call them,
Sure.
those parties simply need to get together and go, out of all of us, who is the best expert to run the economy?
Mm-hmm.
Who is expert at military matters? Who
Yeah.
is expert at legal matters?
Mm-hmm.
And actually appoint people who know what they're doing,
Yeah.
whichever side they're from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become so partisan that
Yeah.
we're unable to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump would never ever recognize skill in a
Mm-hmm.
Democrat and appoint a Democrat because he was the best person for the job. And that is the problem with politics polarizing as it has,
Mm-hmm.
in my
Exactly.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we've been chatting for a little over an hour now. If someone wants to, get your music or your merchandise, or what is the best thing? Go to the website?
Well, you can go to the website Redbox Band. or follow us on Facebook. It's also Redbox Band.
Hmm.
Um, and you can get in touch. We're pretty responsive. You can talk directly to us. We'll tell you where you can find merchandise and our records. And at some point, somebody was asking if I would make a playlist of my favourite Redbox songs. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
I need to do that at some point.
Hmm.
At the
Very
moment,
nice. And we're looking forward to the US tour. I'm
thank you.
joking. I'm
I,
joking.
I'm making two albums at the moment.
Okay,
Um,
excellent. Yeah.
one one is going to be a new Redbox album, which
All
is
right.
uh, kind of being elbowed out of the production line by my daughter, who's making her debut album.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Hmm.
So she's called Katie Joy, and yeah, she's going to be something because her songs are quite remarkable. I mean,
Hmm.
way ahead of where I was at 22,
Wow. Okay. Hmm.
lyrically and compositionally.
Incredible. So but she does take after you. So,
Well, I mean, only in that she loves music and she wants
hmm.
to pursue music and do music, and to some degree, I've lived my life. It, kind of, my life has been so far a sort of exercise in brinkmanship
Hmm.
because, and I get this question a lot, is when people get into our stuff, they I'm happy to say they find songs they like that they didn't know.
Hmm.
A lot of people go, "How come you didn't kind of make it a bit further with this stuff? Because it's good."
Yeah.
And the truth is that my wife and I, the moment we made money the first time round with our first album,
Hmm.
all the execs at Warner Brothers said, "Right, Simon, you're going to be given a lot of money in the first year, after you've had these big hits, because
Hmm.
our hits were worldwide. So once they were big in Britain, they became big around the world. Actually, everywhere except the USA, where
Yeah.
Warner
Hmm.
Brothers refused to release for America.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they thought it was ungrateful
Hmm.
of me to write that song. But anyway,
Jeez.
um, so we we made um, we made a certain amount of money that in that first year, and
Hmm.
everybody, all the advice was for us to buy an apartment or a house in London as an investment. And we listened carefully to what everybody said, but we Nicola, my wife, and I went out pretty much the day after we got the check, and
Hmm.
we bought a yacht. And we've had that boat in. We sailed it to the Mediterranean, to Italy and Greece, and it's been there ever since the mid 80s.
Hmm.
Every year we go and we travel on the boat as far as we can get, sort of finding new places. And so we have definitely, um, perhaps not been as ambitious in terms of the time we put into the work. But
Hmm.
for me, all I ever wanted to do was just kind of be free. So
Hmm.
making a record and then going and traveling and
Yeah.
seeing new places. That's how we want to spend our money.
Hmm.
But it doesn't advance my music career as perhaps as well as it would if we were here all the year round and just working and stuff. But that said, we've made 4 or 5 albums, and
Hmm.
I would encourage your listeners to your followers to check it out. Check us out.
For sure. Yeah. Hmm. So,
You know,
well, I
we
really appreciate it, Simon. Take care, keep on standing for humanity and we all need to come together. So,
We do. It's overdue.
hmm yes. Thanks so much, Simon. Appreciate it.